Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to Spirit Speakeasy. I'm Joy Giovanni, Joyful Medium. I'm a working psychic medium, energy healer, and spiritual gifts mentor. This podcast is like a seat at the table in a secret club, but with mediums, mystics, and the spiritual luminaries of our time. So come behind the velvet ropes with me and see inside my world as I chat insider style with profoundly gifted souls. We go deep, share juicy stories, laugh a lot, and it wouldn't be a speakeasy without great insider secrets and tips. You might even learn that you have some gifts of your own. So step inside the Spirit Speakeasy. Hey, beautiful soul. I am Joy Giovanni, Joyful Medium, and today's episode, we are going to be having a very special guest, Kimberly Friedmutter. We're going to talk all about her book, Subconscious Power, Use Your Inner Mind to Create the Life You've Always Wanted. Now, she is high-level, board-certified clinical hypnotherapist. Her accolades are off the charts, so when I get into her bio, you're going to be really shocked. She's pretty amazing. But she is so generous and goes into these tips with us for self-hypnosis and how we can start working with ourselves right away, and gives us a little gem even in this episode. These self-hypnotic hacks is what she calls them. So you're not going to want to miss that. I really dive in, as you would expect, and ask lots of questions about hypnosis and about her journey with hypnosis. And really, this book serves as a guidebook, a tool book for helping us to shift anything in our lives that we want to really, just like the book says, subconscious power, use your inner mind to create the life you've always wanted. Who doesn't want to create the life they've always wanted? I certainly do. I am so excited to share this conversation with you. Join me now inside the Spirit Speakeasy. Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to Spirit Speakeasy. Whether it is your first time or you are an old friend, you are not going to want to miss today's conversation. My guest today is Kimberly Friedmutter. Kimberly's a globally acclaimed hypnotherapist and best-selling author. Her book is Conscious Power, Use Your Inner Mind to Create the Life You've Always Wanted. She is on the UCLA Health System Board and a former radio host on the Howard Stern station in Los Angeles. You may have seen her on The Doctors or Dr. Oz, maybe in Oprah Magazine, on CNN, CNBC, Fox, NBC, ABC, TLC, HBO. She is often featured in Forbes Magazine, The Wall Street Journal, People Magazine, and so many more publications and places. Kimberly is also the Hollywood elite go-to hypnotherapist for elevated performance in every form of entertainment, including professional sports. She works with professionals of all types, including CEOs, politicians, and any titan of industry, anyone expecting the exceptional in both personal and business matters. Help me welcome Kimberly Friedmutter. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I was long-winded, but I liked it.
Oh my goodness. But you just have this deep wealth of practice in this field. And I love this book. I'm so excited to dive in because you really have taken all of these years of practice and boiled it down to a system. How did you put this all together?
Well, with the lovely people at Simon & Schuster, they were so helpful. They're the pros, and they were amazing at really, like you said, condensing it down. And it's a funny thing because our subconscious is really responsible for everything about us, like all the good touchy-feely stuff. So like our emotions and our memories and our spirit, all of like the best part of us, really, the way I see it. And so they were great at being able to condense it because, like, how do you take a whole human being through their whole entire life and all of their thoughts and belief systems and value systems and morality and spirit and soul, and how do you put that into pages?
Absolutely.
That was the big dilemma. So it wasn't a dilemma for them, but for me, I was completely overwhelmed. So they took it and they mastered it, and it really is this beautiful curation of what makes us us. Is, I guess, the best explanation for that.
It's so incredible the way that you organize it into these very easy to do chunks that anyone can digest and apply. Before we dive into it, though, I just want to ask you, you do go into this a bit in the book, but you actually came into hypnotherapy through your own personal journey and experience with it. That's right.
I was very needy and I needed hypnosis. I didn't know it. I had just been lucky enough to get the show on the Howard Stern station in Los Angeles, which is KLSX 97.1 FM. It was at the time the only FM talk station, back in the day when there weren't that many. But Howard, was our leading show, and I got stage fright. And so it was funny because I'd had this fairly illustrious modeling career,
right,
and acting and all that kind of thing, and writing. And so I wasn't new to the camera, but I was new to 8 million people listening to every single word. Right. So I sought out hypnosis to help me with that, what I would consider completely debilitating fear of being heard, by that many people.
Wow.
And
well,
so,
yeah, if your job is to talk, stage fright is a problem.
The first thing I did when I got the show was I wrote my dad and I said, see that, the teachers all needs to control talking, when you're in school and all the bad marks I get needs to control talking. And I was like, see, now they're paying me to talk bad.
Exactly.
But anyway, it did translate into this fear of being heard. And so with hypnosis, it works so easily. Like literally, I thought I had just taken a nap. And
wow.
I woke up so refreshed, like even better than sleep. It was like really like meta sleep, like ultra sleep.
Yeah.
And then I came to the hypnotherapist with a list of, 50 things that I wanted to work on. I said, please put me out. Here's my list. Go to town.
Wow.
And after that, just because it was such a beautiful experience, it was easy. And in fact, one of my mottos now is, what if it's easy? Because it is that easy.
I love that.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. It took a lot of the angst out of just traditional hypnotherapy, which of course there's a place for cognitive behavioral therapy and all of that, but that's not what I do. So I chose this form because I was mystified by it, and I was also magically transformed from it. So with that, I thought, this is for me.
That's amazing. Were you finding some results for the stage fright, that piece of it, after the very first session?
Yes. In fact,
That's
I
amazing.
only had one session for that one. I was like, let's move on. That was the beauty of it. Yeah. Because, the part of us that absorbs that information and changes habits and fears and all of that is really a beautiful part. And it's a listener. I refer to that part of us as our inner 8-year-old in the book.
Yes.
And I love that precious little part of us because it's like our interior stenographer. It's constantly like, if you wonder what your dreams are, there's a lot of science behind the fact that the dreams are that part of that stenographer taking notes, all day long and discarding later while you're sleeping the things that are no longer necessary or not relevant to your life right now. And among so many other things, when we're sleeping, that's when I imagine the crews, they whistle them in come the crews for cellular repair and immunity building and all of these amazing things, but also really nurturing that subconscious mind. You can't go in and do surgery on your spirit or on your soul or on your subconscious, which is fascinating because you can kind of mechanically work on anything in the body and a lot of things in the brain. But the ever elusive, beautiful subconscious and spirit and soul are that special. They can't be worked on like that. You really have to interior do the work.
Well, and it's so, as you talk highly about in the book, it's so intertwined with the emotions, with our experiences, with what we deduce those experiences down to mean as that inner 8-year-old in the subconscious, right?
Exactly. You did good.
Thanks. I did. It was fascinating. And I'm a gal who loves some action steps and some processes. And I really believe that, part of our role as inspirers, if you will, is to empower others to be able to use these tools in a way that you already alluded to it, taking these big concepts, these big themes, these universal truths that we know to be true. We know deep inside of us somewhere that there's more than just this day-to-day, busyness of it all. Yeah, exactly. Just this conscious state. For you, I was so curious as I read that whole segment about the inner 8-year-old and that, representation of the subconscious. How do you view intuition and subconscious differently and the same?
I view them as the same. Now, the use of, because they are basically the subconscious, but the use of your intuition, I go into pretty detailed because I love it.
Yes.
If you want your life easy, listen to your intuition. So it was interesting because, the intuition can show in many ways. It's that little feeling that we've all had, did you turn off the oven? Did you shut the garage door? All those things, but also like finding lost objects and things that are for the future, which is really compelling. So it's not really time travel or psychic energy or whatever, but it kind of is. There's a little exercise that I do that's lots of fun when I give speaking engagements, and I take an envelope and I put a tear sheet inside of an object. So it could have like a picture of a vehicle or a avocado or a tomato or anything, right?
Yeah.
So, or a predominant shape, let's say in size, like a plum tree or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have people pick from a number of envelopes. I just have them choose one. I have them hold it close to them and just connect with it.
Yeah.
And then I have them draw on it just whatever comes to mind. And of course, you can't try to do an exercise like this. You just have to let it happen.
Yes.
And sure enough, more times than not, when we unseal the envelope and we open up the tear sheet, that item, something very similar to that, is on the tear sheet. Now,
yep.
It shows us that we can receive impressions from things that we don't, or visuals that we don't have access to, which is also in a developed, you probably had guests that have talked about this in the past, but it's also a form of remote viewing. Mm-hmm. So if your intuition and your gut can produce a drawing on an envelope of something that you haven't seen inside, and it can have relevancy to match or sometimes be identical. There was a gal, if I may, further that thought along, there was a gal in one of the speaking engagements, and she ran up to me and she said, "Oh my gosh, look at this, because usually when it's really close, it's kind of freaky.
It is, yeah.
To the normal person doing this, it can
be shocking, absolutely.
It's shocking, yeah. And so when you see how the subconscious mind works, so she brings me the envelope and she says, look, and she had written the word me, M-E, on the outside. And then she ripped open the tear sheet and it's a piece of like a slice of watermelon. And I said, how is this relevant? She said, my last name is Fruit.
Oh, that's so funny.
On the outside, she wrote me, and then it was piece fruit. And then there was a woman it was a Vogue cover, and it was folded up. And on the Vogue cover, it was a beautiful hat with red feathers that were just going like this in this wave. It looked like hair. And she had drawn red hair on the outside. But when she handed me the envelope, she said, I know I did it just because you have red hair, because I was on stage at the time.
Oh, funny.
And I said, I don't know, maybe not. Let's open up and see. And sure enough, it was that big Vogue cover of the red feathers that looked like hair on a hat.
That's
it was
funny.
Fascinating what the brain will do.
It is. I actually do a kind of similar version of this exercise, which is really funny when I'm helping people understand that we all are experiencing, or the way I say it is, we know more than we think we know.
Yes. We're way smarter.
Yes, exactly. I do it where it's in a bag. And so you can guess the approximate size of something. And the last one I did, I think one of the things in the bag was a canister of like ice cream sprinkles, rainbow sprinkles. Okay. And it was fun because someone had said, I just have them almost move their energy like they're blending into the bag and just write any impressions they get, even if it seems to make no sense. And she had written rainbow, she had written summertime, she had written excitement. Yeah. So it's such an amazing part of us that, and you're clinically trained. So that's why I'm so excited to hear your perspective on all this.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about that clinical training and how you have, because I've seen a little bit of your work through videos and through some of your television appearances. And I have to tell you, I know hypnotherapists, and I think it's a beautiful modality for healing and understanding ourselves. But your methodology there's something magical about it. There's something that also brings in the spiritual element. So I'd love for you to share how you blended the two as your unique expression.
Well, thank you for noticing. First of all, I'm very blessed and lucky to have the two because, clinically you can understand everything. And then, it's the artiste within that really can bring that forward, and that's what you develop a practice around. And so I became very interested in high performing problems. So people that were, really at the top of their game in every form and fashion, and then they're just still not happy, or they are experiencing low energy or malaise or something like that. And because the investigator in me really loves to go in and noodle around and see exactly what that is, I started hosting like 5-day programs for clients, and they'll come in for 5 days straight. And I see them somewhere between 4 and 6, maybe 7 hours a day. And we just get it done. I have them make a wish list, and, usually people come with one presenting issue. I want to be happier, or, I'm tripping up on one thing. And usually it's a major thing made of 100 little small parts. And so
sense.
I feel like my work is best served and best in service to those that come by really starting to investigate down what it is. And that turns out to be my secret sauce, I guess, evidently, because in 5 days, whatever it is, it can be addiction, it can be anything. People are up and out and shiny, and the halo's all adjusted and dent free, and it's all looking good. But
that's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And, it's just like anything else. You can textbook know it, but how do you really apply it into practice? And then time after time after time, individual, to individual, it's pretty fascinating. I just feel super blessed.
Yeah. And you've worked and helped people across so many different walks of life, so many different professional careers and experiences. Do you feel like it's the same tools applied just in a slightly different way, case by case basis, or is it pretty much the same across the board?
It's definitely case by case. I mean, there are no two alike, and there are even really no two similar, if I can go that far, because it's as different as, imagine that you spend a lifetime, or, the majority of a lifetime building a problem and not really knowing. And so it can range from health issues all the way to, neck up. It can just be. So one of the things that I really focus on initially is disconnecting anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt. That's and I laugh, I make jokes that by the time I get to guilt, like sometimes men don't really have that one. So I make jokes about it all the time. I'm like, don't panic if you don't have guilt, because by the time we get to guilt, it's miraculously like erased from the database. It's really
wild. If you take away the anger, fear, and sadness, I would assume that guilt just kind of slides right out.
But not necessarily for females, if we wanted to make it gender specific, which everything has its crossovers. But it's very interesting, because you look at it and you just think, wow, this is like, that's one pretty strong truth throughout individuals. But the whole thing is so fascinating. And then, of course, you're really getting into the minutia and into limited decisions. When did you decide to create this? When did you decide to feel that way? And really start to go. But it's amazing how resilient the psyche is. And, between neuroplasticity and all of the things that we're so gifted to have, this magical, amazing machinery called brain, it's really remarkable how the brain just is so resilient, and how it just pops into shape, right back to where it started, when it wants to be happy, and when you're seeking, real alignment, not just, oh yeah, I'm fine, not buoyancy, but like real, true alignment.
Well, that's one of my favorite things about this work, is it's not quick fix that is then going to be something that'll be, that yo-yo effect that we so often experience when we're trying to change a habit, for example. I love that it's, so is one of the connectors that you find, no matter what the wish list is that someone's bringing into you, is it that underlying guilt, shame, sadness, and what was the other? Guilt?
Anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt. It's like, when you go see like the big 5, people talk about in Africa, the big 5 animals to go see and take photos of, right? These are the big 5 negative emotions. But what happens is, if you can imagine, like the way I describe it is, I say, if you took like the bottom of your hair and you imagine that there was a tiny little weight on the bottom of each hair, that hair specific, it wouldn't really matter, right? It's tiny little weight on the end of that hair. But when you add a whole head full and you have all of that weight on you, it's literally like lifting that weight off the psyche. And what's magical about it is you come to this point where you realize just basic, simple truths of human nature, that most people are doing the best they can at any given time with what they have.
Right.
And when you come to that level of peace and acceptance and forgiveness, it's not writing letters and it's not doing any of that, not to knock that at all. But this is different. This is interior work that you're resolving conflict with whatever that is, or with whoever that is, whatever, whoever, wherever, and why ever. And so we go through all of that, and like literally you just feel so good. You feel like I imagine you felt when you were a kid, and you felt carefree, although I don't really remember that feeling so much. It's in my childhood, but I imagine that, I believe it's how you feel when you feel like that, if you were blessed enough to feel like that as a child.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know who knows who of us had that, but like you said, imagine that it would be if
that
you just
freedom.
Yeah. And if you couldn't, if you weren't looking at something through the framework of anticipating a limitation, you just were open to experiencing and moving forward.
Right. Because it's almost like it's just gone. Actually, it's not almost like it is. It is just gone. You don't feel it anymore. It's literally like you sprouted wings. It feels really good. In fact, I need to make note to self, go and do a little cleanup on aisle 4 for myself later.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm ready to feel that again.
Yeah, I bet. And is it something that, like you're saying now, is it something that you revisit to kind of get that refresh or that renewal feeling?
You bet I do. You bet I do.
Okay.
I get lost in my own way, like everyone else too. And when I do, hence earlier today, is I think, oh my gosh, I need to go back and I need to really do that. I need to go back and say, when was the root cause the first time, which when disconnected would cause the anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt to disappear. Knowing that I just need my mind to take me back to a place and time, eyes closed, that pops up for resolution, because the mind is so fantastic. It literally hands the information to you. It just brings it forward. Feels like your imagination, but it's literally just this gift box being delivered to you. Hey, this is what it is. And so then we open it, we look at it, we find the compassion and we find the beauty in it. And then we're able to disconnect that negative emotion or association with it. And then that's where you start to feel your buoyancy.
That's amazing. So someone coming in obviously might know their wish list items that they're trying to heal or work on within themselves, but they probably don't know the initial trigger. They might think they know, or they might have investigated it through other tools, but this is really whittling down.
Right. And even when you think you know, chances are it's not that, because information coming through the conscious mind is very different than information coming through the subconscious mind. Now, I can look at someone who's experiencing health issues and, say, what would you think if you did think? I know you don't know, but if you did know, what would this be attributed to? What thought processes or whatever. And usually the mind just goes right to it. It's fascinating. People,
Interesting.
We know ourselves the best, and we're most of the time our own favorite subject and certainly our most learned subject, whether consciously or subconscious, because your subconscious mind has your historical data everywhere. And so that's accessing it. Consciously, we can be wrong about things.
Right.
Like, for example, there was one gentleman who I did the envelope exercise with, and he drew the picture of a dog's face on the outside. It was very cute. Dog's face on the outside of the envelope. And he said, oh, I drew a dog because we're dog sitting for some people this weekend and this and that. And I said, well, just a minute, maybe, maybe not. Right. But his conscious mind was sure that he knew why. But when we opened the envelope, it was a dog food ad.
Oh, cool.
And so his subconscious was way more intuitive, to the concrete information inside, rather than just the supposed why he did it consciously. So things like that. So I always am skeptical of the conscious mind, when it jumps into, because logic mind, AKA conscious mind, will go in to absorb some of the information. Like, let's just say that you get a negative feeling about someone when you meet them. Mm-hmm. We do that. Sometimes we do that. And the conscious mind might jump in and say, oh my gosh, well, don't do that, or, don't judge it, or don't whatever, because, we need to be PC. And while this is true, there actually was an amazing book that I do reference in my book a lot, and that's The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker. And he opens with that very first example of, the first intuitive hit is, listen to it, follow it, because that logic mind comes in to soften it, but that might not be the truth of it.
Well, and that logic mind is often, I don't know if you'll agree, often operating from some sort of fear-based, previously decided filter, if you will.
Yes, exactly.
Wow, that's amazing. So if someone is trying to create a habit, for example, of learning to listen more, I guess more intentionally to that first, to podcasts, to all the wonderful things, to audiobooks, to that intuition that they get, that first bit of intuition, is there a way to start creating that habit of listening to that first rising feeling?
Thank you for asking. Trust it and live a week by it. So take a week, 5 days, 7 days, whatever you have.
I love that.
And trust it and do it and see if your week ends up more joyful or worse, which it won't. I'm here to tell you, it'll be the nicest week you had. If you follow that gut. Yeah, you follow the gut and see how easy, because my whole premise was literally when I was approached to write the book, my thing was I cannot possibly give people and busy moms and busy, people in business and careers one more thing to do. Yeah. I'm not interested in what I call shelf help books. I'm interested in something that can really be utilized day to day, more like a handbook, more like a guide, a Bible of the mind, if you will. And so that was my mission. And so within that, finding, great parking spaces, finding lost objects, how to run your relationships, knowing who's in your inner circle, your mid circle, your outer circle, all of these things that you can use for life. It's not for now. It's not for later. It's for all time. So they're truisms, it's really true things that you'll carry with you that your mind just does and won't stop doing.
Well, and I love the way you explained it as kind of a manual, because when I was reading through it, that's exactly what I thought this is. It's like, oh my goodness, this is one of the fundamental, we're always complaining and teasing that we don't come in with a guidebook or with an instruction manual. I feel like this is one of the basic, encyclopedia of instruction manuals that would be so helpful. Because we do create these little fears, these little things that we attach to through those younger years that then become part of that subconscious limitation. So it's really cool to know that we don't even have to understand it to use these tools to strip it back and
Right. Even the health and well-being of your parents or your siblings, like things like that, you would think, oh, I'm just witnessing this through life, but we do attach to it. And we think, oh, is that me? A lot of people I see there, they start to approach a time and date when they might have lost a parent, and they want to make sure that they're, all cleaned up and operating at full speed ahead as efficiently and ecologically as they can, because they do have this deep-seated fear. Do I have the DNA of dad or mom, or, brother, sister, aunt, uncle? So you can see that, there are a lot of things, people say, oh, I've had such a bumpy road, and it might just be a bump in the road. It might not have been a bumpy road at all, but then it's translated into, oh my gosh, are we going to crash? So, and to that I say, cancel. That's on page 86.
Yes.
Just kidding. There's all kinds of things.
Oh, and I love that. I love the cancel thing. Well, you have a quote and it says, we are what we think. So we are what we affirm. It would be similar along those lines. What you've been talking about just now, is this what you refer to as the convincers?
Yes. So convincers, right. And so I like positive convincers, obviously. And so when you, like, for example, the week that you take, that you follow your intuition and you see how that week goes, those are your convincers. Every single time that something goes the way, you intuited it, that it would go, that's your convincer. And of course, there's negative convincers too. And we have a lot of that, like, don't practice anything badly, learn how to do it right and then practice it that way. Otherwise you have this poor, I play golf. And so golf is, very, very known for just going out to the range and just hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting. Yeah. But if you're practicing wrong, you're convincing yourself that you can't do it. Or if you're really not mindful about it, golf is a game from the neck up. And I'm way better at the sport because I use my neck up. I use less of
Yeah.
my body and more of my mind, and I'm way better at it than I have any right to be by how little I play and how little I practice. But the point of that is, and it just shows us again, that you think a thought and that thought begins to think. And so what is it? What are you thinking that then starts to lay out in front of you as what we, at the end of our life, call our life?
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. And you also, as part of the tools, you have a lot of tools and techniques and strategies in this book. I just want to touch back into that 1 week trial for testing your intuition or testing something new. I love that empowerment of, just try it, collect some data. And I feel like that's what you're saying, if I'm correct, about the convincers, is it's these data points that we're constantly collecting, and we can use them to affirm something we're wanting to create, a feeling we're wanting, a life we're wanting to live, or we can use them to prove to ourselves the opposite.
Exactly. Every day is another, either in this bucket or that bucket, another little morsel that you're taking with you. Either I can do it or I can't do it. And again, my motto of what if it's easy? And then the other motto I have is expect the exceptional. If something is not working, get the book, read the book, or listen to the book, or do whatever you have to do, because you don't have to live like that. You just don't. Everything is adjustable, even health. Mindset does set the path for every single thing we do. The body trying to get our attention in different ways. And, even like little things, like when you're not feeling well, what is that about? What happened that day to trigger that response? Even just in, again, malaise or depression or all of that, it's so fixable. The further we go down that rabbit hole too of not feeling well, and then that cycles into this and that and accidents or whatever, you're literally being shown in the physical form, in this body that we came into this planetary experience with. You're being shown that something isn't working. If it was a vehicle, we'd run it over to the shop and we'd have someone run diagnostics on it, right? So it's so important, because the IT room is right, 6 square inches between your ears.
Yeah,
super
it's
easy
amazing.
to find. Yeah.
Do you feel like with hypnotherapy, because you practice clinical hypnotherapy, obviously you're clinically trained, is it sort of dissecting in there as part of the process to find out, is this a purely physical cause? Is this for health per se? Is this an emotional, component that's adding to this? Does that all bubble up as part of the sessions, the treatment?
Yes, because even if, let's say that mechanically something is wearing out, why you and why not everybody at your age and your demographic and all of these things? I do believe that thought controls everything.
Yeah.
That is 100% my belief. I know that there's outside influences, of course, but what makes you vulnerable to that at that moment? And I also like causation. I like to put everything, like every being at cause for something over the effect of something. That's a very powerful position to be in, because if we feel at the effect, then we don't feel empowered to do anything about it, especially when it's our own selves causing our own selves issues.
Right.
Really, then there's a lot of that. And so if I say, how did we cause this? What did we do to cause it? And people are like, wait a minute, I didn't cause that. That guy hit me from back there, or whatever in the car. But if we put ourselves at how did we attract it? How can we not attract it? Are we set now where that's what we're doing? It's all kind of habitual patterns of thought. From my perspective.
And I love that you go into that in the book too, because I feel like with all of the self-help books that are out there, the shelf help books, if you will, so often we're seeing this framed in more of a victim blaming kind of a way, instead of a taking accountability and shifting perspective way. Do you know what I mean? So I love the way that you do it, because you position it as more of a way to step into ownership of a situation and less of a way to, victimize further. So it's beautiful the way you pose it.
Right. Simply only because that's the way you can change it. You can't shift someone else's behavior with, that if you're feeling victimized, but you can shift your own. And that's all we can do is shift our own. So if we shift our own, then the reaction to that shifts. So
Yes.
how do we shift people's behavior? By shifting our own behavior. So it all goes back to you always. I mean, there is no blaming.
Yeah, I
There just
agree.
isn't.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is, I mean, I think it's so fascinating to me because I'm a medium. And so it's interesting to me. I teach healers and I teach regular people how to tap into their intuition and see signs from the universe and all the things. So it's fascinating because I feel like there's such an overlap in our work, even though it's so vastly different and we're trained so differently. It's just fascinating to me how it comes down to these core truths that we do have more ability to change than we think.
Right. And what it is, you're so much fun to talk to, first of all. Thank you.
Thanks,
I just keep jumping in. I'm like, oh my gosh.
No,
I never really have this much to say. But what I'll say to that is that perspective is like if you said boil everything down into one word, what would you say? Maybe you were going to say that. I'm sorry.
No, I wasn't.
Jumped the gun. But if you said boil everything down into one thing, I would say that shift in perspective, because you were reminding me that when you're saying, from the universal perspective and all of that, is that like literally there's a hypnotherapy protocol that I do about being the universe. You're the universe is inside of you. And what I do is I take people up to the galaxies, the metaverse, the Uberverse, all those places, so that everything else here on planet Earth is very, very small and tiny. And then one of the neat things about it is that when I finally bring them back to being in the chair, being in the room, being in the office, that they're still part of space. So we still are hitching a ride, if you will, on this host planet.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mother Earth. We're hitching a ride on her back. So like right now we are in space. I happen to have a box around me, called office, but we are hitching a ride in space right now. And we can see that when it's nighttime because we look out and of course it's dark. Right. And so we're on the edge of that, like nonstop. We're really just not in this house. And so when you look at perspective like that, and then you present the problem again in that framework, people are like, oh my gosh, this is like, I'm good now. I really get it. I get the perspective shift of that. It's fascinating because wherever
you really
you're sitting,
do. Oh, sorry. You really do go into this even deeper in the book when you talk about the big picture of it all, right?
Yes. And so you do have to extricate yourself out of the monofocal kind of focus of what you're looking at that's got you upset or got you twisted or got you anxious or angry. Whatever the feeling is that when you draw back perspective, then all of a sudden everything shifts. It's really beautiful. So I would say like that's the one thing that if you're in search of anything, change your perspective.
Well, but also it's just so valuable coming from you because of your training and background, because it's not going to be in this book. It's not a spiritual bypass of just pretend nothing's happening in life and don't worry about, the causation or any of that. Yeah, exactly. Just if you can't see me, it's not here.
Right.
But instead going about it in this really deep understanding way. So I love the way you do it.
Thank you.
It brings me to a different type of perspective shift that you talk about in the book. Can you talk a little bit about hypnotic trance?
Yes. So hypno really is just deep sleep or relaxation. It's, trance then is what we all do when you listen to a boring speech or you're driving down a long stretch of highway and you don't consciously know how you got there. We're constantly in trance during the day, watching children play or the flames of a fire, anything that has you mesmerized. In fact, it's often joked about that, like, I can tell who your hypnotist is by just writing down like your top 5 priorities. Men like big shiny objects and women like small shiny objects.
Oh, funny.
It is right. What has you mesmerized? What has you in this hypnotic trance? And so it is a natural state of being. After all, we are ambulatory, standing straight up, and then all of a sudden at a certain time of night, most of us lay down and we go into this sleep trance. So that's pretty fascinating if you look at it. All animals do it. There might be some that don't, but I'm not aware of those. But in any case, you literally are laying down and becoming, for all intents and purposes, incapacitated so that the body can go in and do all of this work at the direction of that IT room, right? And so when you look at the magic in that, like the most amazing thing, and that animals do this, and that's how we get up in the morning refreshed and new perspective and all those things. And then also like neat little things, like you can talk to your dreams and you can say, come closer, go further, what are you here to share with me? Like all of these things, because it's still a part of your functioning brain and you're in there. So you can ask your brain questions.
That's so fascinating. Will you talk a little bit more about kind of talking to your dreams? Because I know that's a topic that a lot of people are interested in, seeing how they can play more.
Yes. So people are mystified, and science is kind of all over the place on what dreams really, really are. But I say, focus on what you think they are and what feels right to you. But the truth is you can gain a lot of insight and information from your dreams, even if it's just that inner stenographer, taking all of the notes, because, so much information passes just our eyes and in 1 second, right? So imagine all of our senses together. So that inner stenographer has all this information, and you can literally say, like if someone visits, say Aunt June comes to visit, right? And you can say, Aunt June, what do you have to share with me? What's the purpose of your mission? You can get as techie as you want about it, or you can just simply say, share with me, impart with me what there is. Sometimes loved ones will come with a scent. All of a sudden you'll just smell a scent. You haven't gotten there yet, but at the end of the book, there's the chapter that life is a loop, not a line. And that was in reference to Muhammad Ali and the spirit, which I met Lonnie, his wife, so beautiful.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, she's dear, just really a good soul. But anyway, so you look at how we can get information even from those who have transitioned. That's really special. What do you have to say? There's a protocol that I use, little you, ideal you, and you. And so you travel back to little you. And of course it's you, and it's your memories of when you were small, but you're looking at yourself. So you're in a disassociated position looking at yourself, not through your own eyes, and asking that little you, what do I need to know to stay hopeful and with promising thoughts for the future and this and that. And then ideal you at the end of your life, looking at he or she or, and asking, what do I need to know from this lifetime? What do I, what paths, what decisions? You can gain information from your very own journey, pre and post of where you are. It's fascinating because the mind will say, oh, that's what I needed to do. Great. I had the intuition that it was that, but now it's confirmed. It's those moments, those beautiful, touchy feeling moments about your journey. It is so tactile and so beautiful and so interpersonal that you're the only one that can really decipher what those dreams are for.
Absolutely. I'm with you. I do feel like there's some good resources out there, but it's really what resonates with the dreamer, because it's the dreamer's dream, right?
Yeah.
I'd love for you to touch a little bit more on your personal belief or understanding based on your life and work about the spirit world and the other side, and how we can, I believe everyone has access to their own loved ones to communicate and visit and share that energetic space. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I sure hope so. I feel that, and that's my own interpersonal feeling. I love contact from the other side. Short of begging for it, I stay an open vessel. I'm like, please, is anybody there? It's like calling a friend. Do you have time to chat? Yeah. And I really do feel that. But I also have clients that absolutely don't feel that, like at all. It's just not part of their makeup. And so that's beautiful too. I mean, they get their information, they're scientific, they're, steeped in science, and that really excites them. And it's beautiful as well. It's interesting because spirit does creep in even to, folks that don't really feel it. They'll still say that there was something special about that feeling that transitioned with the person. It's interesting. Yeah. There's always a little nugget of something that they'll say, and isn't it the human spirit and the phoenix in us to believe that anyway? I mean, personally, like you look at religion and you say faith, when you watch Dateline, for example. Okay. So when you watch Dateline, I mean, look what faith and belief does and drives people to good and to bad. Right. And
so true.
Whatever feelings about it. But faith is And that does come from the subconscious, by the way. Faith and morality and symbolism. So if I show you a peace sign and you know that that means peace, or I show you a Buddha and you know that that means comfort, or whatever that means for you, that is all in the subconscious. That's part of the prime directive of the subconscious mind. It's our morality, and it's very highly moral. And so when someone is, let's say, immoral or amoral, I look to do like a little systems check. And what's going on inside there? You know, where did that wiring maybe need some help and a little jump start?
I love that. I feel like there's an endless amount of techniques that you have for anything that might be going on with someone. Will you talk a little bit about, you go into it in the book, you have this series of self hypnotic hacks is what you call them, right? Will you talk a little bit more about those and give us, I know you can't give away all the goods, but will you give us a little teaser?
Oh,
about
sure. Yeah, I can give away the goods. The thing is, I'm all about giving away the goods. The book. I was like, right? Because I do have a private practice. And so I thought if I do the book and write the book and put the book out, you know, I don't think that way. You know, I think,
you're the magic of the techniques.
Well, and I think also getting anything out, we should be so lucky to let it all be in one book. You know, we're constantly learning and transforming. But,
absolutely.
But the whole idea of self-hypnosis was that, you know, nobody needs to read about my practice and, you know, the wonderful things that have come from that. What we need is again, to not waste time. We need to get right to it, and we need to get our thinking aligned with what we want. So first of all, everybody wants something different.
Right.
It's a moving target. It's malleable. You know, we don't know exactly where it is. It's like I always say, like help, you know, the tide comes and different things you want. And also, just so you know, this might be helpful for folks to hear, is that the mind is always going to want for something. One of the presenting issues that people come with is, I'm constantly in the want mode. I want. And I say, excellent. That means, you know, normally organized, that everything's firing on all cylinders. Wanting propels us into evolution. We are meant to want for something. So what are those things that you want? Are they ecological? Do they give you a sense of agency? Are you able to, you know, attain them if you really, really want them? So feel peaceful and feel okay that if you want something, that is perfectly normal and you will always want. So embrace that. It doesn't mean that you're greedy. It doesn't mean that you're needy. It doesn't mean any of those. It just means that you're human and that you have a beautiful mind that's functioning perfectly. That's my thing on wanting. Secondly is for hacks. You know, it's very important that we're able to control our thought processes. And by that, I mean being able to tweak, and I'll just use the term tweak, things that are disturbing to us. If you can't fall asleep at night when you get up to use the bathroom or whatever, if you can't get rid or shake of like negative emotions, anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt, just to remind you of the big five. Yeah. There are hacks. The book is full of them because I insisted on making it so that readers or listeners could diagnose, and by diagnose, I don't mean medically. I just mean, you know, fixing your own thing, right? Not a medical doctor, but that you can look at yourself and think, oh, that's what I'm doing. Got it, right? I need to go off planet for 5 minutes. I need to close my eyes and gain perspective on this. You know, just a simple, super little hack is a perspective shift. Is if you can think of a time when you had an altercation with somebody or where something didn't really go smooth. If you imagine, like, just close your eyes for a second. We'll do it real quick. So if you close your eyes and you imagine that altercation or that situation with the person, and you can see how you felt, and you felt like you did at the time, right? You feel some kind of upset now, looking at that other person through your own eyes. And then I want you to float up out of your body into their body and look back at you. So now you're the other person looking back at you through their eyes, and note how that feels. And then there's yet a third perspective, or what we call the God perspective, which is going up between the two of you and looking down from up above at the two of you having the same altercation or upset, whatever that is. And then go ahead and come back into the room and open your eyes. So when you do this, you feel like you felt at the time when you were you. Yeah. And then chances are you feel very different about the situation when you're them, right? Yeah. And then even another completely different way when you're up into that third perspective looking down. Most of the time
Yeah,
you say,
that's amazing.
oh, who cares? That was so silly. What was I thinking? It must have been hormones and things raging or whatever. But what's neat about that is it shifts then our compassion for what happened in that time, and hopefully shifts the way that you feel, again, the perspective that you feel for that encounter, or maybe how it turned out. That's a really good balancing one to use for friends and family and loved ones.
Well, what a powerful tool to use. I mean, can you imagine teaching kids in school this tool for mediation and problem solving between them, if they could start learning to stand, just view from each other's perspective, start to understand how someone else might be feeling. And then could you take that third perspective, which is removed from both, which kind of moves that emotion away. I can think of 100 applications for this tool right now, everywhere from little kids to CEOs who might need to understand, the people that they're managing, for example, outside of that C-suite, and how that feeling could be, and how that could be a different perspective. Wow, that's an incredible tool. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
Are you up for the spirit speed round? A little change of pace.
Okay,
My really fun 4 questions. Okay. There's really no pressure for speed, but
okay.
I just called that because it sounds fun. Yes, no buzzer.
I was going to say I don't have a buzzer, but I can clap.
Do you remember when we were kids, they had that game that was like perfection, where like you set these little pieces and it'd be this really loud timer, and then it'd shoot all the pieces out, and it's so stressful. So it's not stressful like that.
There was also that bop it, pull it, bang it, or whatever. Do you remember that little thing that you held and say bop it? It went to the beat like a metronome. That was fun.
And lit all up. So funny. Okay, well, it's more fun like that and less stressful.
Okay, good.
Okay, share one thing that really shocked you or was unexpected about the power of hypnotherapy.
Oh my gosh, that everybody can do it. That surprised me. I thought you had to be like special or intuitive or something.
I love that. And how powerful to know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. People say to me, oh, I don't know if I could be hypnotized. And my first reaction is, oh, I'm sorry. And they say, well, why? And I said, because only the smartest, most imaginable people or imaginative people can be. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I think I was once. I think that was
Let me try again.
Yeah. But anybody, you can even stare straight ahead at your hypnotist and still be hypnotized. It's okay.
Wow. That's so cool. If you got to spend a day in the spirit world on the other side, you got the full tour, you got to spend time with everyone you've ever known who's crossed over, and it's almost time to return to your life, and your guide tells you have 1 hour left and you could spend it with anyone who's on the other side. Who do you choose and why?
I think I'd pick my mom because I didn't really get to know her as an adult. So if I got to adult with her, I think I would do that. Yeah.
That'd be amazing. What an amazing perspective shift you could have.
Yes, because knowing her, because I only knew her as a mom. So I had no idea who she was as a human.
As a person. Yeah. Wow.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that answer. Even though we have spiritual gifts and lives of healers and helpers, we live very human lives ourselves. What's one quirky thing about you that people might be surprised to learn?
Oh, that's easy. So I write jokes. Buddy Hackett was my best friend.
Oh my goodness. His passing.
And he taught me about joke writing. And then I ended up writing jokes for Jay Leno's monologues. I wasn't hired to do it. I would just pass them to someone and then they would. So when I see Jay out in Malibu, we say hello to each other.
What a fun fact about you.
Right.
That is a fun, quirky bit of information.
Yeah, I'm a good joke writer.
I love it. I bet you're really fun at a dinner party.
I can be. I don't know that I write them that fast. Like I really structure them. And in fact, you're not even supposed to call them jokes. Buddy would be rolling over right now. Sorry, buddy.
Oh, funny.
If he thought I said that, they're called stories and bits. But anyway, I still call them jokes because otherwise people don't know what I'm talking about.
I love it.
Yeah.
Leave us with one pearl of wisdom. What's one piece of advice that you wish that you'd had early on in your understanding of all of this work?
Oh my gosh. One thing, lighten up. I use that as my email. Lighten up. I was such a serious child and was so, and that's maybe why I'm drawn then to the funny side of things and joke writing. I would say lighten up. See, I go very serious and kinesthetic when I say lighten up. I go, lighten up. You know, I strangle the words, lighten up. But the thing is that it's that freedom of spirit, you know, things like when we're serious people and we mean serious business and we are in serious businesses, that lightness of spirit can still live. I would say that was my biggest, probably still today, my biggest challenge is to stay light. Because it's more fun and it's just nicer.
Yeah,
you know,
well, it does feel better.
Yeah, and it's going to be okay. You know, it's one of those things. And so seeing that lightness and brightness in even the worst of it.
Wow.
You know, there's a lot of that. And so staying light, I think lightening up would be
I love that. That's a beautiful
pearl.
That's a beautiful pearl of wisdom. Well, thank you so much for talking with us today. I want everybody to make sure that they get your book. Will you show it to us one more time so those who are watching can see the cover and just read it out to us so they can get it right?
Yeah, Subconscious Power. Use your inner mind to create the life you've always wanted.
And of course, I will have links in the show notes and links to Kimberly's social so you can follow her there and see all the things that she's up to. And I'm sure that she just spills out little life hacks here and there for everyone. I don't think you can help yourself. Thank you so much for shining your light.
Thank
I appreciate
you.
You too.
It was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks. What a special conversation with Kimberly Friedmutter. I was just so amazed at her willingness to share with us. I mean, she is at the top of her field and helps such high level, high profile people. I'm so, I don't know, speechless, I guess, that she was willing to share tools and techniques with us that aren't even in the book. That, you know, trust your intuition for 1 week. How are you going to try that? Is there an area of your life where you're not trusting your intuition? I asked this for you guys. So I wanted to see what she would say and what hacks she had. I mean, she's known for her self-hypnosis hacks like we were talking about. If you don't already have this book, I really encourage you to check it out. I'm going to have all the links in the show notes. Kimberly Friedmutter, and I'm going to have her social media links at Kim Friedmutter on my social media profiles myself, as well as in the show notes, so you guys can find her. And I really just encourage you. I feel like this is one of those books that you'll go back to time after time, anytime you're wanting to, like she said, tweak something, adjust a habit, create a new goal, and how to use these tools to focus to manifest the life that we each want. I'm going to give you the title again, but again, it's going to be in the show notes and on my website as well. Subconscious Power, Use Your Inner Mind to Create the Life You've Always Wanted. Globally acclaimed hypnotherapist, Kimberly Friedmutter. I just am so grateful to have had this conversation. I'm so grateful to be here with you and have you listening. I'm going to be using some of the tools for this book to envision what I want for the year and even beyond that. And I'd love for you to share with me how you're going to do the same if you are. I hope you will. If you like this episode, be sure to share. Be sure to share and comment, and make sure that if you would like a free sign guide called Sign Magnet, head on over to my website, joyfulmedium.com. Just drop your email in and you can get my free mini course, Sign Magnet, which will teach you how to communicate with the universe to get signs. And maybe you can even tie these together and play with these sign techniques and then use it during your 1 week of trusting your intuition. Hey, could be. Let me know if you try it. Let me know if you try any of the other self-hypnosis hacks or any of the other tools and tips in the book. I'm definitely going to be working this book this year. I'm so honored to share this conversation with you and to have had this time together. And of course, with the wonderful Kimberly Friedmutter. Big hugs. Thanks for joining me inside the Spirit Speakeasy. Bye for now.